We are going to talk about API economy. So I'm just a regular disclaimer. I'm part of Open Consulting. I'm co-founder of Open Consulting, and along with me, Vinod is going to talk about as well on the API economy. And so essentially, we are talking about how you can make money from APIs, and especially for security professionals, how that can be done. I'll hand over to Vinod, who is an expert on the API side, and I'll let him speak.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, API application program interface. As a programmer, we know this is quite old terminology, but recently it has picked up more in terms of a business model. So people usually using this to have interaction between two different systems and exchanging data and information between two different systems. The beauty of this economy is quite flexible, and it has started generating revenue at quite granular level, and it has quite a big outreach for more customers. So when we know from some of you must be from 2000 era when there's a .com bubble and people are moving towards the web interface, then we came across mobile and laptop and mobile and tablet kind of interface. Now is everything is moving towards the API kind of business model, where people just want simple engagement where they can get the data and they do their own presentation, they do their own UX and UI kind of stuff. The advantage of this is it has got very faster innovation because data is new oil, as all of us know. And the way it can be exposed is via the API methodology, where we can give any data people want. So if you talk about from open banking to IoT to any of the prop tech, everyone talks about API. And every system, if we go and start building the system, any integration, the first thing they speak about is how do we integrate our API? Have you exposed your APIs? And it has got very easy integration. They give you some kind of security credentials, and you start getting your data. Just go to their gateway and start getting the data. So it has got very fast time to market as well. Natix, if you can go to the next slides. Please feel free to ask any question or send it to Joel if you have, and I can answer them. As I said, that customer, the first thing they would ask in most of the financial institutions these days, if you see all the open banking like Starling or Revolut, and these people have come just because of the power of their API. If you want to open an account, a customer account, just they will expose an API, and the callers, the user of those APIs, they are free to use their own way of presenting them. So that way it is quite fast, and innovation wise, people make different sense of the different data. I can make one business out of a data, and just using same data, someone can use a different business model. So that's why it's quite flexible. And integration wise, it can integrate anywhere because different APIs, we have got REST model, people can use HTTPS, JSON, XML, RPC. There are different ways how we can actually call the APIs and get the data, and data could be in JSON or XML format. Nadik, can you please go to the next one? Do you want to take this one, Nadik, or you want me to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to cover, thanks, Vinod. Vinod has got around 20 plus years of experience working primarily on the financial sector or finance industry. And he works very closely with the traders. So that's where his expertise has come from, the API side. I'd like to cover the generating revenue as to how you can, or how people are making money from APIs. So there are companies, a lot of new startups which are just coming out, which have got their model as they're just going to sell the API. They are not building any physical product. They're not building software, they're just building an API to which they are going to allow their customer to have access to. Some typical revenue models as to how people can generate money, or basically what kind of ways they do it. A very basic one is a free access to a basic API so that other customers, other clients can start integrating and working with your company. So a simple example is GitHub has provided open API wherein you can just go in and look up information about any of the users of GitHub just using a simple REST API call. And another model is per query basis. So if you look at Google Maps, you can utilize Google Maps inside your application. And for that, Google Map charges you based upon how many number of queries you are sending to Google Maps, how many number of API calls you're doing. Another way of doing generating the revenue is a subscription model, wherein you are basically selling per monthly, or a quota of queries are permitted from this particular client, and you don't really care about uh, how many devices they are using on the other end. All you care about is just giving the data. Zoopla, Rightmove, they are providing API interfaces into their system so that you can basically get the information out about the properties from them. Then there are other revenue models like Wiggle does it. You can just buy the whole bulk of data, and they provide you an API interface to download that data, and that's where they make money. But all of these examples are primarily towards if you own a huge amount of data, or you have some kind of process that other people would like to call. So if we talk about data access models, you can granularize the information. So you can actually sell the most granular level data. So very small piece of information can also be sold. So say if you have got, uh, most of us are in UK, so a very basic information would be that how many number of properties are available for sale in a particular area. That's one piece of information. Another piece of information is where are the schools in this particular area. Third piece of information could be what is the result, or what is the ranking of this particular school. That was an interesting configuration. I was thinking where the question is, but yeah, coming back to data models. So you can actually sell data at a very smaller granular level where people can look for that particular piece of information. Another way of selling the information is where you are actually selling the aggregated view. So if you have got multiple customers and you want to find out what is happening across all of those customers, or maybe across multiple sectors, then you can produce the aggregated views behind that. And those, the advantage of selling them, making them available through APIs is that you can actually sell the latest information on. Your customer will can access the latest information. If you are just generating a PDF or generating a report and sending it by email, that becomes stale information after some time. So API interfaces give access to the latest information. And another thing which is important about the APIs is they allow you to extend and add on top of somebody else's research. So you might gather the information about, say, how many number of COVID positive cases are being reported in a particular region. And on top of that, you can add demographic data, you can add travel data on top of it, and you can actually generate a completely different API, which can say, is it safe to travel to this particular zone or this particular area? So APIs can be built on top of other people's API, and that could be a completely new feature which you are selling. So there are a lot of things which are possible in the data model. Now let's talk about as to what is the, how does it impact as a security professionals. I know most of us are either professionals or we are security enthusiasts over here. So a typical example is your business is changing. One of the things where APIs are being exposed by a lot of companies. So one of the things that you can come in and do is basically provide the services for securing the APIs. So basic suggestions are there, like using the tokens, encryptions, and signatures, identifying vulnerabilities in various apps or the API itself, and using the quota and throttling so that there is no denial of service. You don't have other kind of somebody abusing the API that you have provided, and also using an API gateway. So these are the things which are already being done by a lot of different companies. Now we as security professionals, how can we make money into it? So right now, a typical example could be that if you are consulting to a client, then you will be suggesting them all of these things, that why don't you do X, Y, Z. If you start developing that as a service or as an API, then what you can do is you can provide a secure API gateway. So your client doesn't need to worry about the security aspect of it, and all of their customer can just utilize your secure API gateway to access the client system. This is just an idea, but I would like to open it up for discussion, and also what do people think about these kind of things. I cannot see the chat because I'm sharing the screen, but another idea is, say, penetration testing as a service. This is just an idea. And what do you guys think about that? Right now, what you're doing, or a lot of people go in and provide penetration testing, but for that, you need to have access to the client system. You go into the premises, or you get access to that particular system. After that, you're pretty much doing standard set of uh, process or procedure. You're following a standard procedure, and at the end, you're actually producing a report. How about we create penetration testing as a service, putting an API interface on top of it? So it could be the client can just connect to your API. Client provides its IP address saying, can you do penetration testing on this IP address range? And then let your software or the code, the automation piece that you have done, do the testing on the client side, produce the report automatically, and give it back to them. You can provide it as a free tier, wherein, say, first 2 penetration tests are free. After that, we'll charge you on an individual request. Or you can give out an enterprise license saying, this is X amount of money we are going to charge for monthly subscription. And then you can test as many number of systems, as many number of times you want. So client is happy because they can order penetration testing anytime online or through the API interface. What you can do is you can keep your service up to date with the latest vulnerabilities which are identified in the market. So anything which gets identified, you can add it to your service and keep it up to date. So similar to what any kind of antivirus company does, right? They run antivirus, but they keep updating their database. In this particular case, you are keeping your vulnerability database up to date, and then you are running those tests against the client system. You're recommending things to them, and while doing this, you can start building up a database of what is your client system consisting of. So if you have kept a record of your client was using a particular version of application, say it could be WordPress, you keep a record of that in your system. At later point, say in 2 months time, you come to know that that particular WordPress application has got a vulnerability just been exposed, reported. You can actually go back to the same client and pitch to them that we have identified it, and your system, if it has not been upgraded, might be vulnerable to this new vulnerability. And in that case, you are giving more engaging experience to your customers, to your clients, through which you can actually generate a lot more business. All this by creating an interface into your intellectual property, which is a specialized, say, penetration testing.
I just, Natik, I just wanted to add one point in PTAS. So the entire API in business, what we are trying to explain is, it is just write once and use multiple times. So in penetration testing, if you have to go physically and try to test somebody's network, it's a closed network, we have to do that every time. But API is you've written once and you're just encaching it every time, and people can use it. It's the same kind of code, same piece of code. For example, WordPress vulnerability, Natik gave one example, and that will have with multiple clients. So that's where the power is. The scalability is huge, and the investment is very less. You have to just write once and use it like multiple times. Sorry, Natik. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for adding that, Anybody else? What do you guys think about penetration testing as a service before I move on? Let's move on. So another major area where you have where uh, the whole API platform, the whole API boom has come is because of IoT devices. And all of these IoT devices, which are like spreading across the globe, and pretty much everybody has got now at least one in their house because of smart meter, and a lot of other IoT devices sitting, they need to be secure, right? As a security professionals, we these IoT devices, by their nature, because of the costing sometimes, because of the way they are manufactured, the way they are just duplicated and manufactured somewhere in a different country, a lot of the manufacturers don't put in the effort to make it secure. And that's where, as security professionals, we can actually provide the API interfaces which can allow a more security on top of it, or even anonymity can be added to it, or we can actually take away the sensitive data from there, or make the sensitive data more secure. If you think from Red Hat perspective, red team perspective, then actually we can write the APIs which can automatically identify these kind of IoT devices and be able to extract sensitive data out of them. So that is both sides of the world wherein you can utilize the API. Why am I focusing on API instead of doing it manually? The reason is so that it can be extended. And if you think of GitHub as the place where everybody puts in their open source solution, right? They write a piece of software, they put it on GitHub, and then somebody else has to copy that software and then extend it. In case of API, you're not copying their API, you're just putting a wrapper on top of their API, or just utilizing a small piece which is of your interest and extending it further. That's the advantage, the biggest advantage of what the API platforms give you, is to be able to extend things further. So security IoT devices is definitely another major area, and that also touches upon the cloud infrastructure. So basically, API, pretty much all of the cloud infrastructure are providing API interfaces, and you being able to enter and secure that area as well. That's it from my side. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but let's any questions